On a freezing February day in 1957, a young man wandering through a field on the outskirts of Philadelphia stumbled upon a small cardboard box. At first glance, it seemed ordinary, the kind of box you might use to pack away an old crib or store belongings in an attic. But inside was no discarded furniture. Instead, wrapped in a thin blanket, lay the body of a little boy. Naked, malnourished, his hair crudely cut, his eyes closed forever before he'd even reached his 7th birthday. For decades, police, journalists, and ordinary citizens tried to answer the same haunting question. Who was he? He became known only as the boy in the box. This is a story of America's oldest unidentified child, a mystery that baffled investigators for 65 years before finally revealing a name. But even now, the case remains as chilling, tragic, and unsolved as ever. If this kind of unresolved mystery grips you, make sure you subscribe right now, because we bring you shocking new heist and crime stories every single week, with daily dives into the untold and the unbelievable. The year was 1957. America was in the midst of change. Families were moving into the suburbs. Television was becoming a staple of the household, and Philadelphia was a city trying to balance its industrial backbone with the promise of a new post-war middle class. But just beyond the neatly painted homes and busy factories were stretches of woods and farmland, places that seemed quiet, even forgotten. And it was in one of those stretches, along Susquehanna Road in Fox Chase, that a college student named Frederick Benones went looking for muskrat traps. As he walked through the cold, overgrown brush, he noticed a large box discarded by the side of the road. It looked ordinary, perhaps like trash someone had dumped. Inside was a blanket, faded, plaid, and too small for an adult. Curious, he peered closer. At first, he thought it was a doll. The small body was so fragile, its skin pale against the cold February air. But it wasn't a doll. It was a boy. Frederick panicked. He hesitated before calling police. In fact, it would be a full day before the discovery was formally reported, because he feared that his muskrat traps might draw unwanted attention. By then, the scene had already been compromised. But once police arrived, the story that would grip America had already begun. The body was that of a little boy, somewhere between 3 and 7 years old. His hair had been cut unevenly, and clumps of it still clung to his skin, as if someone had shaved him in a rush. His body showed signs of prolonged malnutrition, thin, underweight, and marked with scars. He had been wrapped in a flannel blanket and placed inside a cardboard box once used to package a baby's bassinet. There were small bruises on his body, and medical examiners noted evidence of surgical scars, one on his ankle and another near his groin. His fingernails had been carefully trimmed. To the detectives, it was clear someone had cared for this child at some point, at least enough to trim his nails and bandage old wounds. But someone had also neglected him, abused him, and finally discarded him. The mystery deepened when they realized no missing child reports matched his description. Who could vanish a little boy without anyone noticing? No frantic parents came forward. No neighbors recognized his face. In a city of over 2 million people, he was invisible. As the police pieced together the scene, the press caught wind of the tragedy. Soon, front-page headlines screamed about the mystery child in the box. And with every passing day, the story grew stranger. The Philadelphia Police Department launched one of the most extensive investigations in city history. They fingerprinted the boy, but no matches came up. They took photographs of his face and body, then distributed them across the country. Police even printed his photo on gas bills, hoping that by mailing it into thousands of homes, someone would recognize him. Thousands of leads poured in. Each time, detectives chased the possibility. Was he a kidnapped child? An abandoned orphan? A runaway? They checked orphanages, hospitals, foster homes. Nothing. In desperation, investigators turned to unusual methods. Psychics were brought in. One suggested the boy might be connected to a foster home not far from where the body was found. Detectives investigated, but no clear ties were discovered. A woman, decades later, would confess that she knew the boy, that her abusive mother had purchased him from his biological parents and killed him. Her name was Martha. At first, her story seemed compelling, full of details that matched the case. But when police tried to verify her claims, evidence was missing. She was dismissed as unreliable. Years turned into decades. Retired detectives carried his photo in their wallets. They gave him a gravestone mark America's unknown child. Citizens held candlelight vigils, but still no one knew his name. And the most unsettling part? Despite thousands of missing children across the nation, no one, not a single parent, ever claimed him. As time passed, theories filled the void. One centered on the foster home near the crime scene. The boy, some believed, had been one of many children taken in and abused before being discarded, but no concrete link was ever proven. Others suggested he was a child trafficked or sold, then abandoned when he became ill or difficult to care for. Another theory pointed to his carefully trimmed nails and fresh haircut. Had someone tried to disguise him after death? Or did the grooming suggest a parent who still cared, even as they caused him harm? The story became folklore, whispered in neighborhoods, obsessed over by amateur sleuths, even discussed in classrooms. Everyone had a theory, yet none could answer the simplest, most human question: who was the boy? And then, decades later, technology would rewrite the case file. In 2022, 65 years after his body was discovered, investigators turned to genetic genealogy, the same technique that identified the Golden State Killer. DNA was extracted from the boy's remains and compared across family trees. Slowly, a picture emerged. The boy in the box had a name: Joseph Augustus Zarelli. He had been born in 1953 in Philadelphia. He had siblings. He had parents. For the first time in over half a century, the unknown child was no longer nameless. But the revelation only deepened the mystery. Police confirmed that Joseph's case remained an active homicide investigation. They have not publicly named his parents as suspects, nor released full details about his home life. Even with his name restored, the truth of how and why he ended up discarded in a box is still hidden. Today, his gravestone no longer reads "Unknown Child." It reads his name, a small piece of dignity returned, though far too late. Joseph Augustus Zarelli. For 65 years, he was a boy in the box, America's unknown child. Now we know who he was, but we still don't know why his short life ended in tragedy. His name was found, his story told, but justice remains out of reach. How many other children rest in unmarked graves, waiting for science to give them back their names? If you want to see more stories like this, mysteries that refuse to rest, make sure you subscribe and join us as we uncover the cases that time tried to forget. Because sometimes the past never stays buried.